You're listening to Deep South Dining on MPB Think Radio. It's the last Monday of 2024, so we're going to take this opportunity to look back on some great conversations from 2024. To start, here's an interview from Kayland Partee and Chef JB about the Dirty Napkins Supper Club.
Carol, good morning. So glad that you're back.
Thank you, Mal. I love it on days when the studio is full.
It's hopping.
It is hopping up here at MPB today.
Absolutely. We have two guests in the studio, Kayland Partee, who goes by KP, and then we have Chef JB, who goes by JB. So welcome.
So you got your KPs and your JBs.
Yeah, and there we go. Thanks for coming, gentlemen. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, sir.
Now, Marissa and I attended last Saturday's amazingly interesting Dirty Napkins Supper Club event, and tell our listeners who might not have a clue what the Dirty Napkin Supper Club's all about.
Okay, so the Dirty Napkins Supper Club was an idea that we actually came up with, inspired by our friends in Florida, the Florida Supper Club, and we attend all of their supper clubs. So, so me and JB was thinking like, this is something we should bring back to Jackson. And we always got a unique perspective on things, so we just wanted to kind of make it more than about food and wine, but bringing community together, through the power of food. So that's the main thing. So we always looking for like unique perspectives to add to it, such as flowers and such as like poets or any little thing that may be different that's not going on around the city. So and then we got an amazing chef, Chef Justin Brown, who comes up with extravagant dishes and things like that. So just trying to create a different type of community here in Jackson.
So, Chef JB, where did you start cooking?
I actually started at a young age, just being around my grandmother. So growing up in the kitchen with her and everything, I was probably one of the only grandsons that stood around in the kitchen. Like, to the point like my brother now, they calling me like, how did I do this? How did I do that? Like, I should have been in the kitchen.
You had your chance. Now, do you cook professionally other than?
Yes, sir, I do.
You have a full-time gig as a chef?
Well, I actually do just private chef, full-time with catering and everything. So
all right.
I've worked in restaurants and came up through the restaurants, so.
And now you're doing your own thing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Describe for Carol, who wasn't there, and our listeners, what we ate Saturday night at the Dirty Napkin Supper Club.
Okay, so we started off like with the passed around appetizer, which was a brie toast. Just toasted out some French bread and sliced brie and drizzled with some honey. And then the first course was a arugula, green apple pecan arugula salad with a lemon maple vinaigrette.
Which was delicious.
Yeah, that would have been my
It's a fine salad.
Yep.
And then we did a bread service, the sweet potato biscuits with a honey whipped butter. And then we came with the main dish, which was a vanilla brine lamb rack with sweet potato puree and Brussels.
Yeah, the sweet potato. Well, you used sweet potatoes in the biscuits or the bread and in the puree on the entree, which was great. They were both really well represented there, I thought.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I was unable to see where you cooked and how you cooked, but how were the lamb chops cooked? Were they on an open fire? Were they on a grill? Or were they in an oven? Or how did you cook
it was seared and then finished off in the oven.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. And when you do this, like this event the other night was at the Orchid Bed and Breakfast, you're always using a different kitchen and a different venue, right?
Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you got to walk in and figure it out, right?
Figure it out.
Yes.
So how was this venue?
It was a challenge because the kitchen was extremely small.
It's a kitchen that only serves breakfast to guests.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not a full-service kitchen.
Right, but I was actually shocked to see how we made it through, though.
You did well.
How many people did y'all have?
We had about 42 to 45 people there.
My goodness, and cooked out of that little kitchen.
Just out of the kitchen.
Yes.
We had to rent the room next door to the kitchen just to have enough room for staff and prep and everything. So, but it ended up working out. We was excited to do it in a different location because eventually we want to try to take it on the road to different cities. So this was kind of like a really good prep, to be able to do it in any environment.
So, Carol, it was really unique in that they prompted you to interact with people you didn't know. There were, I call it choreographed. The whole event and evening was choreographed. You were always being sort of prompted to talk to your neighbor, to reach out to someone you didn't know, to put your phone down. quit. Everybody there was taking photographs and video, and we kept being reminded to put your phone down and talk to your neighbor, which was cool. Yeah. And then there were all these aspects of the floral arrangements. Talk a little bit about that, how each guest got to create their own floral arrangement.
Okay, yeah. So that's something we've been doing since our very first supper club, where I just wanted to have a unique experience. I always wanted to do I love flowers, plants, and things like that. So I always thought it would be a cool idea if the guests could do like tableside bouquets, or they could come and make their own type of flowers. So we usually did bouquets at them, where they could pick like 10 flowers and wrap it up in a bouquet. But this time, Carly at Bellini Blooms and her team, they do an amazing job. We said let's try something different, and let's do put it in a vase, and so they could pick their own flowers, put it in a little water vase, and then what's the beautiful thing, what I didn't even think about, the guests set the vase on the table, and it kind of added to the decor of the table. So, so everybody really loved that. So that's Carly at Bellini Blooms and her team. They do an amazing job every time. So I really like that aspect.
That sounds really cool. I've never heard of doing that at a dinner party. But that is fantastic.
Yeah, and there were other fascinating components. There was a photo booth. There was live music. Mm-hmm. There were these scrubs. There was someone selling butters and body oils, and
yes,
and that was set up. But my favorite, far and away, was Cubs the Poet.
Yes,
they
sir.
brought in, Carol, this gentleman from New Orleans, who set up with an old-fashioned typewriter. And you would sit down and you would converse with him. He would ask you a number of questions, and then he would type out a poem just for you based on the conversation. He would then take a photograph of it, give it to you, put it in an envelope, and you would carry your own personal poem around. At the end of the event, he comes out and talks to the whole group, then writes a group poem. Marissa, you were there. You witnessed this. You loved this.
I was. It was beautiful.
We were sharing our poems with our group and with our friends. But Cubs the Poet was my favorite component. I mean, it was all fantastic, but I love talking to that guy.
Yes, sir. He did an amazing job.
I cannot believe you did this while I was on one of my few vacations.
Oh,
I
man.
mean, it just sounds like an experiential dinner.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's the goal that we're going for. That, people could leave there with experience that they never had before.
Right.
And I think that was everybody highlighted tonight. He did an amazing job. In the poem, it was kind of like for him to come up with that off the spot so quickly, and then say it how he said it. It was an amazing night. Everyone had a nice one-on-one experience with him. And like I said, it definitely highlighted the night, so we really appreciate that.
Well, I love the whole idea of supper clubs, and it's something that's become popular in the past few years. Mm-hmm. And when I was living up the Delta, I don't know if you've heard of the Delta Supper Club. Mm-hmm. And that's a really, really cool supper club. I remember they had it in an airplane hangar in Greenwood. They move around the Delta to really unique places. So y'all need to check that out.
Definitely.
And we are big fans of Chef David Raines and the Flora Supper Club.
Yes.
And that's great that he inspired you, and now what you're doing is more inspirational than anything I've heard. So you inspire others, but it's just a great way to bring people together around food.
Yes, yes.
And speaking of venues, this particular event was at the Orchid Bed and Breakfast, which is formerly the Millsaps Bowie House on State Street, or Old Highway 51, however you like to think of it. But you've had your supper clubs at other venues and other places, right? Tell our listeners a little bit about how you move around to different places.
Okay, so our main venue that we usually use was the plant venue over there in Fondren, the formerly known as Eco Shed. So that was our main location that we did it at forever. And this one actually was the first one outside of the plant venue.
Okay, all right.
So that's why we had a little, getting adjusted to it. Because to be honest with you, we didn't even really view the space till the day before the supper club. So we rented it out and just.
You guys are brave.
It was an impromptu situation.
It was an impromptu situation.
Improv.
It was great.
But it worked out perfect though. It was the perfect night, perfect setting, the perfect
weather was incredible.
I was actually scared about the weather
you
earlier that
been.
week. I was like, man, I hope it's dry, and then that Thursday when we went to view the venue, it was windy.
Very windy.
And I was like, man, I hope it's not that windy Friday evening, man. Like,
yeah, it was perfect. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better night.
Yeah,
Okay,
Carol, it
so
was before bugs and after the storms.
Yeah.
And do you know what the word the poet said the most commonly used word was? Do y'all remember?
Yes, wind.
Wind.
Yes. Beautiful. It was really a beautiful night. Like I'm still on a high about it. Like it's amazing. And then our host Miranda Joyner, she does a great job at, like you said, just connecting people with the community around them, and like she's very into like breath work and things like that. So it adds another unique experience other than just coming up and talking about the food and wine. Like really purposely bringing people together, and that's what we love so much about her. She does an amazing job. Miranda Joyner, she's an amazing person. So
Yes.
Okay, there are lots and lots of people out there listening to us right now, and they are thinking, how can I go to the Dirty Napkins Supper Club? Where can
Yes.
they find you?
yes.
And how do you sign up?
Yes, so usually we do it every other month, and they could go find us on Facebook or Instagram at Dirty Napkins, or on Instagram's Dirty Napkins Supper Club. We don't have a website or anything yet. We're working
Yeah,
on that.
but that's cool.
Yes,
Instagram
ma'am.
and Facebook. I saw you on Facebook.
Yes,
I didn't know
ma'am.
about Instagram.
Yes, man. We would love to have as many people come out and experience this as possible, and hopefully we have you at the next one and want you to come back. And
Yeah, man.
Because I wanted to. I usually at the end of the supper clubs, I let people around the table kind of introduce themselves and things like that. And it was so much going on, I completely forgot about it. And then usually I get a dirty napkin sign, so that's our name. I take a dirty napkin from someone and we'll sign it, and I get it framed. And I forgot to do that, so I'm gonna have to have you guys back because you guys gotta sign the napkin. You
Absolutely.
got to. You have to.
So where did the name come from?
Okay, so I actually came up with the name. Dirty Napkins. I'm really big into food and restaurants and things like that. And I was thinking, like, what would be a good name for like a food blog or something? And I was like, well, if the food is good, then the napkin should be dirty. So, and I just stuck the name
great
in my
name.
head and just
Great
ran
name.
with it.
It's just
So.
like
It's like they say at the end of an
name.
Italian meal, the way to know whether it was a good meal is how many breadcrumbs are left at the table. All right, we've got a caller. Ann from Alabama is driving through, heard our conversation, and has a question about the supper club. Hello,
Yes.
Ann. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm getting hungry listening to y'all.
That's the point.
I came from a North Mississippi town, and when we talked about supper clubs, it was like potluck. Everybody brings a dish. So that's what I think about when I hear supper club. But this is something that the food is already prepared for you, right?
Yes,
ma'am.
Yeah,
That
you know,
sounds like even better.
this is it's a great question. You know, the term supper club used here is sort of an evolution of the one we grew up with. I was in supper clubs when I was young. Everybody would bring
Yeah.
a dish. But this
Right.
is a sort of curated, you come and the full experience is already planned. You just sit, eat, converse, and enjoy. And where'd you come up with the concept? I know it's not original, but it is an interesting contemporary concept.
Yeah, so like I said, we just wanted to do something different. We wanted to be more than just food and and wine. We just wanted people to really connect. I'm really big on community and building community, so that's why we have prompts to do different things and just be a unique experience where you could leave with a new best friend. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, yeah, I was able to talk to him," and
great.
things like that. So it was very cool. So that's our whole purpose of doing it like that.
I ended up sitting next to someone I'd met and worked with in the past and hadn't seen in a while, and we sort of got to reacquaint ourselves
love
with
that.
each other.
Love that.
And
Love
then the
that.
woman across the table from Marissa and I was from Atlanta.
Yeah.
She was here visiting with her cousin, and she brought a whole new sort of perspective to the table. But besides the food and all of the experiences, there was also wine pairings. Talk a little bit about your partners in the wine and that.
Yes.
So we actually got Anne Marie from Rain Cellar and with the supper club down there with Flora, and I love her. Like,
Shout out to Anne Marie.
I love
She's
her.
my
Like,
favorite person in the wine business. I went over
she
there
is.
Saturday. She works for David Raines, and she is a right now woman. If you think about a wine or see a wine, Anne Marie is on it right at that moment,
right
ordering
there.
it for you.
Yes.
Love it.
It Raines Cellars.
Love it. And this was her first time actually being a part of it. And we would love for you to come out. And she was a little nervous. And I told her, why are you nervous? This is what you do best. But she did an amazing job. But that was our first time using her. But usually we use different sommeliers from around the city, like Justin Watts at Apple's. He's done a few in the past. And so we always try to bring somebody new in, from around the city that really good at it. So, but we'll probably have Anne Marie come back very soon for sure.
Yeah, she did a fantastic job. Y'all had quite an array of wines.
That's perfect. That's what we like to hear. I didn't get to try any, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, and one of her real specialties is finding really great wines at excellent prices.
Yes.
I mean, she has turned us on to some really, really great stuff.
Yes. Every time I go to one of their supper clubs, I always leave with a case full of wines because everything's so good.
You think they planned that?
Now, Chef, have y'all started planning the next event yet?
We actually was talking about it yesterday. So probably this week we're gonna probably have details and stuff for the next one.
And it'll be like in a month and a half or so,
Yeah,
maybe
about
2
a
months.
month and a half. Mm-hmm. Yeah, give people time to plan out. We're hoping to start doing one monthly, but it's just so much that goes into it.
That's tough. That is a tough
Yeah,
gig.
it's tough. So every other month, give people a little chance to miss it and things like that. And we actually trying to start going on the road. So we're thinking about doing a one in Alabama, Birmingham, and hopefully Houston and maybe in Hattiesburg and things like that. So start taking it on the road where other cities can kind of experience it a little bit.
Experience Mississippi.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes.
So, Kayland, what is your background? What have you been doing up until this point in your life?
Okay, so I tell everybody my day job is I'm a wedding photographer by trade. So I do weddings and commercials and anything with a camera, honestly, for a living. And then we do the Dirty Napkins. It's just a little fun thing right now that we do right now.
There's a third gentleman in the booth with us who's had a camera on you ever since you walked in. Explain who he is. I see he's a photographer as well.
Yeah, this is the amazing Brandon Jackson. Brandon Jackson Photography, a good friend of mine, a great media person, cameraman, photographer, videographer, and he's always there for me. Like, honestly, I thought that we were supposed to be here at 10 today, and we were supposed to be 9. And I called everybody, it was like 8:30. I'm like, hey, y'all, it's 9 o'clock, not 10 o'clock. And everybody was able to hop up. But he's a great guy. So anybody looking for a great photographer, Brandon Jackson Photography, top notch.
Yeah. Well, I saw him all over the place Saturday night, working hard.
Yes, sir.
Marissa,
yes, sir.
You were there. Talk to our listeners a little bit. Do you have any questions for our guest? You were there. You enjoyed each and every step of this, every moment.
I did. I felt like it was such an intimate and unique experience, and something I never would have tried to do or thought about doing on my own. But I'm so glad I got to have the opportunity. I'm really, really grateful for it. I don't know that I have any questions,
That's
but
cool.
I do. You stopped before he could tell them about the cheesecake.
Okay. Well, we don't want to leave out the cheesecake, Chef.
So the cheesecake was a French vanilla creme brulee cheesecake, and it was topped with berries and honey.
It was lovely.
And I had to leave early. I saw you putting the fire to them when I was leaving. You were finishing them off.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about the cheesecakes. Is that a recipe that you've developed? One you got somewhere?
So the cheesecake recipe, I used to work at Reunion Country Club,
Right.
and at the time we had Chef Rene, who was a French master chef from New Orleans, and learned a lot from him. And he actually gave me a couple of his recipes, and that's actually one of them.
Oh, okay. So that's a heirloom recipe for you from
Yes, sir.
someone you worked with in
Yes,
the
sir.
past.
Yes, sir.
That was good.
Yes, sir.
What else? Having experienced this, what else would you envision Kayland doing differently the next time? I mean, this time you had the floral arrangements, the poet, the live music, all of that. Quickly, because we got to run.
Okay,
What does
so,
the next one look like?
So the next one, like I said, we're planning it right now. The poet was such a hit. I don't know if I had to bring him back or not because everyone loved this. I think everybody's going to be expecting him. But I'm always trying to bring unique experiences there. So I was actually thinking today, having like maybe some type of painter there, like a live painter that make it do like quick paintings of each person there or something like that. Or I know we'll talk about having like a illusionist there or something. So
an illusionist.
Yeah, so
right.
something that's always different for sure.
Well, thanks, Kayland Partee and JB, Chef JB. Thank y'all very much for coming, and we look forward to the next Dirty Napkins Supper Club.
We'll be right back with more conversations from 2024 on Deep South Dining. You're listening to Deep South Dining on MPB Think Radio. It's the last Monday of 2024, so we're going to take this opportunity to look back on some great conversations from 2024. Here's a little bit of Malcolm and Carol's conversation with Jonathan Huddleston from Grills of Mississippi.
Carol Palmer, Malcolm White, and our special guest, Jonathan Huddleston. Welcome back, Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
He is a veritable font of knowledge.
Indeed, he is. Our listener had asked about the pellet grill, so tell us a little bit about what that is, and I guess it's kind of one of the newest things. Am I wrong about that?
Actually, it's not.
Not, okay.
The technology's been around for 50 or 60 years. In the north, that's how they heat their houses, pellet stoves. You think of the midwinter up there, their firewood's under 4 foot of snow.
Right.
So they're using a heat grade heater system to heat their houses, plants, factories and stuff like that. It's a renewable resource. It's cheaper than gas. We brought pellet grills to the state of Mississippi about 18 years ago.
Okay.
Nobody even knew about them. Everybody in Mississippi thought we had invented them. I wish I would have flown my helicopter into this morning to do this interview. So it's a food grade, 100% all natural wood. And that's the key to it. You have we all grew up eating what I call charcoal chicken.
Right.
Daddy said, this is what it's supposed to taste like. Shut up and eat it. And it's gotten so far, I give the explanation. The original barbecue was like, my family, we had a big barrel and we'd put oak and hickory and whatever and make coal out of it. And that's what we cooked over. Man got lazy, as we always do, in the 70s. And let's do a briquette.
Right.
That's the leftover pieces from lump. Let's crush them together, and we can put binding agents and stuff in it. Man got even lazier in the late 70s, early 80s and said, hey, I still don't want to have to light this charcoal. Let's put a petroleum product in it. That's healthy, right? And it just progressed to it's not regulated. You don't know what's in it. There's chemicals, and that's why, like when you light charcoal, you have to burn it off for 30 or 45 minutes.
Yeah.
A house will burn up in 10 minutes. What the heck are they putting in your charcoal? And the cheaper it is, the worse it is.
Right.
So I tell people, you're wasting an hour to 45 minutes to an hour of your fuel source by buying this cheap product. A pellet grill gives you the convenience of a gas grill. Within 4 minutes, you have a fire. Within 8 to 12 minutes, you're pretty much ready to cook. Okay? It only burns what it needs, right? Convenience of a gas grill, but the flavor of a wood fire. Smoking meats was designed to preserve it or give it a kiss of smoke. Not this, everybody's so used to eating heavy smoke. Traditional smoking woods in Mississippi is hickory and apple. I personally am a pecan and cherry guy.
Okay.
A little bit milder smoke, just a preference. So the pellet grill has a hopper system on it. Same way a farmer gets grain through a bin. There's an auger system that feeds a fire pot. And one of the things that makes them superior to any other grill, in my opinion, is the fire is maintained in a stainless steel fire pot. We're cooking off the heat of the flame instead of the flame itself. We can't control fire. We can control the heat that comes off of it, right? The only person I know that can control fire was crucified. And this way, the fan system in the grill, so it's called a combustion fan or a convection fan. It does two things. It stokes the fire, so there's no flutes and dampers for anybody to have to mess with. Then it creates convection inside the chamber. So if it's smoking temperatures, I'm blowing the smoke around the food. At grilling temperatures, I'm cooking top, bottom, side to side. Doesn't necessarily mean it cooks faster. It means it cooks more evenly. Okay. So anything below 300 degrees is going to have a smoke flavor. Anything above 300 degrees is grilling, searing, and baking. And I said baking. Same concept as a wood-fired pizza oven.
Wow.
Because anything you cook in in the oven, you can cook in the pellet grill, and that's one reason so many people have gone to it. I can air fry French fries on a pellet grill.
You lie.
I didn't get this big from lying. This is all homemade right here.
Homemade.
Yep, this is all homemade, trial and error.
So when you buy your pellets, so you buy specific kinds of wood, you can just buy a bag of pellets?
Yes, ma'am. They come in, we sell them in 20-pound bags, and I've got probably 9 different flavors. I have a couple of proprietary blends. We have a pecan and cherry, because that's what I like to compete with. We call that the competition blend or contest mix. And then we have peach, which is going to appease to your Georgia barbecue, apple, sugar maple, cherry, hickory, and then we have another one we call Master Your Beef. I actually like it on chicken as well. It's got a black walnut, pecan, and sugar maple in it.
What is the size of a pellet grill? Like the smallish unit?
They usually are 500 or 600 square inches of cooking space, and then they go up. But people use the reason some of them are so much larger. When you look at them, I tell people, hey, the average person doesn't need a grill this big. Right. But with the pellet industry, you don't just have to look at it as I'm cooking burgers, dogs, steaks, chicken, whatever on it. Like I said, anything you cook in an oven, you can cook on there. So I'll roast my Brussels sprouts, grilled chicken, and make a cherry cobbler.
My goodness.
Baked potatoes, we throw vegetables on it. I didn't eat Brussels sprouts or asparagus till I got a pellet grill because it stunk the house up, and now I can do it outside. So look at a pellet grill. If you're in the market for one, we'd love to help you with it. Our job at Grills of Mississippi is to help you make the most educated decision.
Yeah, get what you need.
Right.
Yeah.
Not what your neighbor has.
We do very little advertising. We advertise, of course, on Facebook and the Dixie National Rodeo. That's it.
I like it. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about barbecue styles. I know there's the Memphis, the Kansas City, the Texas, the Alabama.
Carolinas.
Does Mississippi have a barbecue style?
We do. It's the melting pot from Texas, Alabama. The Carolinas bleed down almost like the Mississippi River. Mississippi has the most unranked barbecue in the United States. We have more world grand champions from the state of Mississippi than any other state.
Wow.
I'm not surprised.
So what is our style?
It's a mixture of Kansas City and Memphis.
Yeah.
Your Memphis style, they like baby back ribs. Your Carolinas and Alabama, most of the South, we like the St. Louis ribs.
Rib.
Yeah.
And it's the difference between white meat and dark meat. I prefer a St. Louis cut. It's got a little more meat on the bone, and a baby back's more like a pork loin, different texture. And that's going to be your Memphis, which is sweet heat. And like I said, traditional Mississippi barbecue is going to be with an apple and a hickory mix, a little heavier smoke. And it's just a preference.
Yeah.
So do you do all the different sauces, sell all the different style of sauces?
Yes, ma'am.
Place?
Everything from an Eastern North Carolina, which is like a true vinegar.
Vinegar base, yep.
And then we have, of course, your Memphis style, which is more of a sweet heat. Your Kansas City style is going to be more of a, excuse me. Your Kansas City is going to be more of like a sweet and savory. And
I like the South Carolina style. I'm a mustard
base
barbecue
There's
person.
certain times I don't eat a lot of barbecue anymore, as you can imagine. I'm around it every day. But I like a vinegar sauce myself. I tell you, I went to a competition in Arkansas and would have thought, hey, it's right there by us, right? It's going to be this. Got my tail whooped. I know how to cook. I mean, this is what I do for a living. Went up there, got my tail kicked in, walked around, started tasting everything. Arkansas uses a tomato-based vinegar sauce. Would have never thought that would have been their profile. So they more of a very thin, like tangy, ketchup-y taste. And I would have never,
like an Eastern Carolina
similar,
sauce?
Yeah.
Similar?
More sweet ketchup instead of like a more
Tangy,
acidic, yeah.
And what would you call the Dreamland sauce? Vinegar?
Yeah, it's a sweet and tangy sauce. Yeah.
What's your best sellers in terms of sauces and rubs?
Of course, we love to push our own product, which is the Mississippi Meat Mafia product. We have a sweet and tangy sauce, and then we have what we call the Hitman, which is a molasses base, and I like to mix them together.
Okay.
We have a new steak rub that's going to be released in about 2 weeks at the store. I do a unami rub that's real popular. Unami is, of course, your fifth sense of flavor. It's got shiitake mushrooms, miso, and garlic in it.
Oh.
And that's a flavor enhancer. It's almost like a natural MSG.
Yeah.
Beef Bound and Down, our buddies Casey Tyler and Kayla Tyler from Summerall, Mississippi, they have an SPG called Beef Bound and Down. Flake sea salt. It's got a Worcestershire powder in it, Worcestershire sauce powder. And it's my number one seller. We also cater to a lot of gluten-free, sugar-free, low sodium. That's a huge market that most people just have to mail order. Like I said, we've got about almost 800 in. I have about 250 samples that we can taste. So people come in and say, I want your best chicken rub. Well, I got 700 to choose from. You're going to have to help me out. So we can let them taste them and show them the difference. You know, our rubs are $10 to $12 a bottle. I can go get one at the grocery store for $4. You're paying for salt and fillers. A lot of our stuff it's MSG free. We don't put a lot of the silicone and stuff in it, byproducts, what we call fillers.
Yeah.
Now,
So do you do online
We do. It's Grills of Mississippi, grillsofms.com.
and your Facebook page?
Yep, Grills of Mississippi.
And do you do your own packaging, or do you have someone do that?
We have
for
a
you?
co-packer. We use Reed's right here in Mississippi, and they do 95% of my co-packing, labeling, and then we ship all over. We're in Rouse's grocery stores. We've got about 8 stores. We're
Down
in
Louisiana.
there. And
Now, what about your testing? Do you literally have a testing kitchen, or do you just do
yes,
it at home, or
we
you
have
do
a
it at work?
We have a health department certified kitchen. We have a full catering business. We do mobile vending. We have a little food trailer that we go out and vend with. But our test kitchen, of course, we also do full cooking classes.
Oh, do you?
It's a 1,500 square foot kitchen with 2 65-inch 4K TVs and a camera system. And we do cooking classes, private and open to the public. Do a lot of like business stuff.
And that's at the store in
At
Ridgeland.
the store.
So it's part of your business out
Yes,
there.
sir. Yes, sir. We also have a meat market. We sell what we call all natural meat. We're the only retailer right now in this area selling the Prairie Fresh Prime. All of our pork and beef are all natural products. No saline, nitrates, phosphates, stuff like that in it. People say, well, I can go buy a Boston butt from the grocery store for $1.49. Well, my butts are $1.99. But you're not paying for water weight. You
Right.
hear so many people say, I can't eat pork because I have high blood pressure. It's not the pork. It's what they're putting in your pork.
Wow.
Sounds like
So we
field
got a little
trip.
time left. Let's talk about sides.
Okay.
You're doing a barbecue for friends. What sides are you going to lean to?
Your traditional is going to be a potato salad, baked beans. We do one of our house specialties is a smoked Gouda mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Like I said, we have a full service catering business. We don't own an oven. Everything we cook is on the pellet grills.
Is that right?
It's so much cleaner and it's got a unique flavor to it. And we do a white chocolate chip French bread pudding and a homemade banana pudding. And we sell.
But not in the pellet grill.
No.
You got to have an oven for that.
No. Yeah, the pellet, all the bread and everything is done on
You
pellet
put
grills.
your banana.
You don't have to cook banana pudding.
You don't.
Not
okay.
ours. But
Okay.
we do make our own like homemade whipped cream. Only thing I don't do is grow the bananas and cook the cookies. We make our own custard and everything.
What about coleslaw?
We're a big I love a honey mustard coleslaw.
Honey mustard.
We also use Bob Kershell's comeback dressing as a coleslaw.
That's
mix.
what you use for your.
That's a good one.
It is so good on like fish tacos and stuff like that. You know, your traditional mustard, mayonnaise, and vinegar is always a crowd favorite.
We'll be right back with more conversations from 2024 on Deep South Dining. You're listening to Deep South Dining on MPB Think Radio. It's the last Monday of 2024, so we're going to take this opportunity to look back on some great conversations from 2024. Next up, we're taking a look back at Malcolm and Carol's conversation with Chef Derek Emerson.
Welcome, Derek Emerson.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
It's only taken us 5 years to get you here, but man, are we glad you're here.
But Monday is my day off sometimes, so I try to go do things.
We're glad you did
How
this
about
thing.
sleeping in on Mondays?
Well, we actually moved out to the country and we have horses now, so sleeping in has gone away.
So you grew up in Beverly Hills.
I did. California, Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, Century City. You'd come back to Mississippi. My grandparents are from Meridian. My grandfather was a CPA. My grandmother was a stay-at-home mom until my family moved. I guess my dad and his sister moved out, and then she went to work as like a bookkeeper. But I used to come here every summer. I came here one summer when I was 16 and never left. I decided it was, I don't know, growing up in California, either you're at the top or you're at the bottom. There's not really a huge middle area.
Yeah.
And so just, to live to survive or survive to live, one of the two. So I'd like to live and enjoy the sunshine and the trees and the greens and the fresh seafood and all the good stuff that come along with Mississippi.
So walk us through your career. Did you say you came at 16 and stayed?
So I moved here when I was 16, graduated from Meridian High School, left Meridian as soon as possible. I came to Jackson, worked at the brick oven.
Oh, wow.
I guess before that I probably worked at Subway, which is still open, and the one that across from Highland Village, it used to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Back
So that
in the
was
day
the beginning of your culinary career?
when I was 18.
Wow.
I was a sandwich artist. So I did that, and I actually worked, then I went to a little place in Memphis Culinary Academy.
Right.
Which was just a chef that we went in every morning. So every Monday we would do pastry, and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday they'd pass out a whole meal, maybe Thanksgiving or a Christmas meal, and everybody would pick recipes and you'd cook all day, and then everybody would sit down at 5 o'clock and eat. And then the chef would kind of work with us and just everything was hands-on. It was a real short class, and then I came back to Mississippi, worked the brick oven and at Bravo with Dan and those guys, and then left 94, I guess, and went to Atlanta for 5 years and worked with Kevin Rathbun and all kinds of different places. And just try to work as much as possible.
Working with Kevin should have been a great experience for you.
I learned more about chilies and just some of the stuff that he did, like his fusion Texas Asian stuff that he does is his flavor profile is so amazing. It's so good.
So do you still keep up?
I do. And when I see Kevin, it's just he's the biggest kid I've ever met, I guess. He was a prankster for sure.
And so what are his restaurants now? Does he still have Nava?
Nava's closed, so that was a Buckhead Life restaurant. So that was part of that group. But he had a Rathbun, Krog, Bar, Rathbun Steaks. Just all kinds of stuff going on in Atlanta.
Yeah,
busy.
and a beloved guy in Atlanta, really.
He's done a lot for the Atlanta dining scene for sure. When Pano and Paul were in the beginning, it's like Kevin kind of took over the reins after that.
Just as you have done for the dining scene in Jackson.
Well, Jackson's been good to us. I can't complain.
So what brought you back from Atlanta?
Well, I got a call. My daughter was actually living here at the time. Got a call to come back and open Schimmel's, which was probably, I guess, one of the bigger restaurants at the time.
Yeah.
We opened that in '99. I was there for about a year and a few months, and then left and had the opportunity to buy Walker's. We actually took it over in July and closed our deal on 2001 9/11.
Oh boy!
So
Wow.
we've never actually celebrated our anniversaries, but
So let's talk about Walker's Drive-In. It is a landmark, an iconic restaurant. It was built in the 50s.
Malcolm probably knows more.
47, I
47.
believe,
That's what
yeah.
I think. 47 or 46. You were part of it at one time.
I did. I owned part of Walker's at one point.
Where Redfish Anna actually came from back in
Right,
that time.
right.
And Anna, which was Charlie Hyman's wife,
Right.
like the redfish with the crab meat. And so people use that dish sometimes, like Redfish Anna. I said, that's kind of real specific to one restaurant after a lady's name. They're like, "Oh, I thought it was like Veal Oscar." I'm like, "Not so much."
Only in Jackson.
Only in Jackson. Well, I don't know. You can Google it now with the wonderful internet. It's everywhere.
But yeah, that's a big deal, a big responsibility, taking over a restaurant that has meant so much to a community and is an iconic Art Deco
It's amazing. You know, it's amazing that even when it, let's say Fondren wasn't what Fondren is now, people always went to Walker's, and it was, you know, I just think it's great. And for me now I see people when they bring their kids in when they were little. Right. Now I see them bringing their kids in, so it's like the like
third generation
yeah. People coming in. Sometimes you'll see all three generations in there together, and it's just like, you know, it's always been my happy place and still is, because you can see everybody. And, you know, I say I have the easiest job all I have to do is make people, you know, make food good and people smile. And so it's just to be able to see that right away with that open kitchen like that place. And, you know, people that come there, like, sit in the same booth. They
exactly.
They, you know, you know what the table number is. And so it's kind of like, it really is of 20 years of family coming in and meeting more families over the years that have been, it's pretty amazing, actually.
Well, for our listeners who have not had the pleasure of Walker's Drive-In, the kitchen is about the size of a broom closet. No, well, I mean, you can actually almost reach from one end to the other.
It is exactly 10 feet wide. So you have 36-inch range, 36-inch kitchen equipment, and you have about 3.5 feet in the middle. It's perfect.
Wow, that's terrific.
Yeah, and it's still my favorite. You know, with CAET being the biggest kitchen I have and has the most equipment, and Walker's is still my favorite. You know, I think always will be. It's just. I can go in there any night of the week and just pick up exactly where I left off.
Yeah. So how many people does it seat?
Inside seats, I mean, if everything was like 58, maybe 60, and then outside about the same. We do have the building in the middle of the parking lot, which we're about to maybe not have anymore.
Oh, no.
But then we'll enclose the patio. But I think that, and that seats about 50 upstairs and 50 downstairs. So it can go from a real small 60-seat restaurant to 200 real fast.
In a 10-foot kitchen.
In a 10-foot kitchen.
How would you describe the menu, what you offer at Walker's, to someone who's never been there before?
I mean, you know, I guess to me it's always been seafood heavy. Mm-hmm. We've always focused on sustainable Gulf or sometimes Alaska, just whatever fisheries were controlled the best, because I feel like you have to. And I don't know, casual, I mean, Southern-ish.
Yeah.
I mean,
the lunch, you still do the meat and three at lunch?
We still do the meat and three at lunch. We did lose catfish and spaghetti back in the beginning.
Right.
Because I did it for the first month and no one actually ordered it.
Huh.
But as soon as I took off the menu, everybody was mad about it. I was like,
but you still do catfish on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
But no spaghetti.
Yeah, no spaghetti. Catfish and red beans on Fridays now.
Right.
But so we do plate lunches, and then so now we're Tuesday through Friday, and then dinner Tuesday through Saturday, thanks to COVID.
Yeah.
We've all wanted to rest a little. So we're there and still rolling right along.
And you've had it now for
23 years.
23 years.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
I was 30 when I took it over.
You took it. And then came...
Then Local 463 was second.
And its original location was...
Madison Avenue at Colony Crossing.
Right.
In the city of Madison.
Right off Local 463.
Right off of 463. And then we moved 463 to Renaissance. And people are like, what are you going to do about the name? I'm like, Local 463.
We're going to keep it.
I have 7-8 years of established name on this. It's worth something. So.
Yeah, well, I was in Local 463, I guess a few weeks ago with my husband, and we, stopped in like at 1 o'clock or 1:30. There was not a seat available. I mean, we were seated at a two-top in that little back room that can be the
private dining room.
It's
actually the only quiet place in the restaurant too. If you want to actually have a conversation with somebody while you eat, because that restaurant's it's so big, it gets.
It's a big place.
It's a big place.
What does it seat?
It seats it's about 6,000 square feet. It seats about I think 170-ish, and then CAET, which came next would have been CAET, which was in Fondren originally, which started off as a wine bar and small plates, and went into then my lease came up, and they approached me about about the Seafood Revolution place, and I was like, well, I guess we can move that. And so we just moved it and became CAET Seafood and Oysterette.
Yes, and from the very first day, it was packed.
It's been good to me. I think Ridgeland's been good to us. People from Jackson, people from everywhere in Mississippi, like it's like a central, where Fondren is kind of the central area for Jackson. It seems like Ridgeland's kind of the central area for Madison
and
County.
Renaissance, more specifically, where you have 2 restaurants in that center, which is fantastic. And talk a little bit about CAET, the building you took over before you moved in CAET. It was Seafood Revolution.
Seafood Revolution didn't necessarily work. I don't know. I guess for a lack of a better, it just wasn't a good fit.
Wasn't a good fit. Though it started off with a bang.
Well, I feel like if you're in Jackson, people want to see you at your restaurants.
Right.
And I feel like, especially if it's a locally owned restaurant, people feel better.
Right.
And I think when you have people come in from out of town, Jackson's a little different. It's a different market. It's different people. It's just, a lot of places you can get away with some things. Here we have a lot of really good local restaurants, and people just don't. They don't want just. They can get that from anywhere. They want the local restaurants to be the local restaurants, and people to be there and represent those restaurants. So I think that when you have, like Aplos and places like that, you see Alex at those restaurants. You get Lou's, you see Lou at those restaurants. So,
that's true.
When you had your restaurant, we saw you at your restaurant.
Right.
So it's just kind of one of those things. Even if you're not there every day, people still need to see you, and I think it makes a difference.
We were talking about. When John and I were at Local 463, we were talking about your restaurants, and John said, he just knows what people in Jackson want to eat, and I think that was such a nice thing to say about you, because you have an instinct.
I've been real lucky.
Well, it's more than luck to really hit that sweet spot of what this community wants.
Well, I'll say I learned my very first lesson when I first bought Walker's the first month, and I changed the lunch menu completely. And my business went from $2,000 a day at lunch to about $1,000. And I was like, I'm gonna go out. It didn't take long to revert back to straight plate lunches and things. I think it's figuring out what sells and figuring out what people really do want. And if you have a restaurant that people come to all the time, they don't want it to be hard. I want their experience to be as easy as possible.
Yeah, because you really don't want your restaurants to be special event like that you go just on your anniversary or birthday. You want it to be like the dining room.
I mean, I could almost tell you, I could name names of people that you guys would all know that I see them at Local, I see them at CAET, I see them at Walker's, and they do a rotation. They eat out basically every night, and they hit other restaurants. But as long as you're in the rotation, it's a good place to be.
Yeah, and all 3 restaurants are different.
A little bit, yeah. Redfish Anna's on all of them. I probably have sold over 1 million orders in the last 20 years. So
1 million orders of Redfish Anna.
Well, and we do have to stop and pay homage to Ann Hendrick.
And Charlie Hyman.
And you got Charlie Hyman.
Created the dish.
And it was, it started off, I think, with hollandaise and some other things on it. Now it has, I call it updated from the 80s to the 90s with butter sauce. With beurre blanc on it. And so it's just.
But that was very thoughtful of you to keep the dish originally. The customers loved it.
I think if I would have taken that dish off, I'd had to move out of Jackson.
You'd had to go back to California.
I'll be honest. It sent my kids to school. That one dish has paved my way. Wow. And then people are like, "Do you love that dish?" I'm like, "It's not even my dish." I've changed it. I've changed it to be my dish, but it was not my invention. But I've definitely protected it for years.
We'll be right back with more conversations from 2024 on Deep South Dining. You're listening to Deep South Dining on MPB Think Radio. We're going to take this opportunity to look back on some great conversations from 2024. For our last segment, we're looking back at a conversation with Marshall Bartlett from Home Place Pastures.
What's up?
Well, what's up indeed. We have a special guest in the studio with us this morning, and let me set it up for you. So, probably a month ago, we were chatting, as we are wont to do, and I was talking about having gotten a pork butt and smoked it over the weekend. You may or may not remember this.
Oh, I do.
And I talked about how I prepared everything, and I said I went to the store and picked out a pork butt. And so a week or so later, we got an email here on our email address saying, well, you should have gotten your pork butt from us at Home Place Pastures in Como, Mississippi. And I said, oh, yeah, I know about that. I know about your products. They carry them at Beans and Bananas in Belhaven, where my daughter works. And so we started chatting about their business, their operation there. And finally I said, well, why don't you come on the show and tell us all about it? And here we are.
Good idea, Mal.
Yeah. So
I'm just sorry you and I didn't think about it before, because I've actually had products that were gifted to me by my good friend and Como native Meredith Creekmore.
And I sat next to Meredith at the Arts and Letters program, and she said to me, you're having Marshall on Monday. Como's a small place, Marshall, and news travels fast.
It does, yep.
Well,
anyway.
Meredith gives your products at Christmas, and so everybody really looks forward to, I got bacon.
You got
so
bacon.
I was pretty happy.
She's always a big cheerleader and supporter of all things Como and a dear family friend. So I'm glad she's out there spreading the word. Thank you, Meredith.
And I can tell you she's listening this morning.
That's right. We hope she is, but she's a great supporter of what we do as well. We're blessed to have the Creekmores here in our village.
Well, I actually made a pilgrimage to Como this week, I guess on Friday. I just happened to be in Oxford for a conference. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to drive by there. And it was really kind of a spiritual experience. I had never been to Como. I came on the highway toward Batesville, and the road took me, I guess it was Highway 268, I don't know.
You took Highway 6 from Oxford to Batesville, and then you went north on 51?
No. You turn off, it's about 13 miles from Oxford. The road turns, it was my GPS, and took me all around this beautiful curving road.
Oh, yeah,
through
kind of the back way up by the lake.
And then all of a sudden there's Sardis and winding around, and it just kind of took my breath away. Then when I turned on Home Place Road, I mean, it's beautiful.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we've been there for 150 years. So put a lot of work into it. Yeah.
So tell us about your place. Tell us about your family, and then we'll get to your operation. But let's talk about the place first.
Yeah, and you mentioned my wife, who I wanted to thank, Katie, who is the reason I'm here. My just kind of endless cheerleader and unpaid PR agent right now. So thanks, Katie. But I grew up in Como on the farm. I'm the fifth generation to farm there. So we worked the same land east of Como for a living, dating back to the 1870s. And as you know, agriculture, kind of the state of agriculture changed a lot during that time. Right. During my dad's career, he farmed for about 40 years. He really saw the intensification of the inputs and a lot of the GMOs and just, what you had to do to make a living off the farm. Just became kind of more and more detached from natural processes and really detached from decision making and autonomy as a farmer. So you had to borrow money at the beginning of the year, buy your seed and inputs from big chemical ag companies. You have no control over the price of those. Then all year long, you got to deal with the weather and bugs and nature, which you have, no control over. And then at the end of all that, you got to sell it based on what the Board of Trade in Chicago tells you it's worth. So you're at the mercy of a lot of forces.
And then hope you can pay back.
Hope you can pay back the loan and then go back and do it all over again, right?
And you may have to buy a new tractor along the way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or
any
repair
number
one,
of disasters. Yeah.
So what was he growing?
Cotton, corn, mostly cotton, some corn, soybeans, a little bit of wheat. And we had a cow-calf operation on our pastures, which, when you're driving around the rural South and you see these beautiful pastures with cows, it's, 90, I'm pulling the statistic out of nowhere, but it's probably 90 or more than 90% cow-calf. So it's just a group of mama cows and a bull and the bull breeds the cows, and they sell the calves every year. So we had that operation on what they call kind of the poorer ground or the sorrier ground in the hills, and then we were growing crops in the bottomland.
How many acres do you have?
So the original home place is just under 1,800 contiguous acres, and not all that is row crop ground. A lot of it's woods and pasture, but I think at the peak of my dad's farming career with his rented ground and what we had on the place, he was managing a little under 2,000 acres of row crops. And that was, that's considered small these days, which is pretty crazy. You're really covering a lot of ground. So anyway, I grew up that way, and I did not, and my dad really pushed me and my older siblings away from that style of agriculture and really focused on education, and worked really hard to send us to good schools. And it just kind of seemed like this legacy, this 5-generation legacy, might fall by the wayside. And I'm the baby and the youngest of the family, and spent a lot of time in Mississippi. I went to the Mississippi School for Math and Science for high school, and went to New England for college for 4 years, but really wanted to come back. So I think I was always trying to find a way to come back to the farm and build something viable there. But my roadblock was that I thought if you farmed, you had to row crop farm, and I didn't necessarily want to do that. Not that there's anything wrong with row crop farming. That's why I have a shirt on my back. I just personally wanted to do something different. So I was living in New Orleans after college, and I did a brief AmeriCorps term rebuilding houses down there. It was pretty handy from growing up on the farm, so I put that to some service work for a year. And then I went to work for a company that was selling local meat to chefs. And that's really where the light bulb came on. I realized, and there were a lot of local food movement things happening at that point. A lot of the pioneers in this, which some of your listeners may know, like Joel Salatin or Will Harris at White Oak. So there are all these ideas out there of like, look, there's this demand of, in the consumer base that wants local, better products, right? They want to know where they came from. They want to know how they were raised. They want to know that they, in the case of meat, the animals were treated with respect and the land was treated with respect, and they have this better product. So people seem to want that, right? And then you have all these farmers that are kind of fed up with the same commodity system that I just laid out, and they were looking for a better market opportunity and are looking for a better market opportunity, wanted to raise things that they could kind of get access to that premium consumer market. And so you had this kind of demand and this supply, and there's a gulf between them of problems and friction, as we say in the kind of business world. So, and in that lies a lot of opportunity. So that at the tender age of 25 is when I decided to move home and start raising pasture-raised pork and grass-fed beef on the home place. And the kind of linchpin of that business model was to connect those two things I was just talking about, the supply and the demand. You got to be able to turn that livestock into, yummy steaks and ground beef and sausage. And for that to happen, you got to run them through a federally inspected slaughter and processing facility. And the same kind of, macroeconomic forces that have removed a lot of small businesses from rural America have also removed meat plants. So there's a real lack of access to those type of facilities. So we went ahead and built our own right there in the middle of the farm.
So you do it all on your property?
Yes, and I, created more problems than I solved by building that facility on the farm. It's been very challenging, but we do. We're one of the only federally inspected plants in the middle of a farm producing animals like we do in the country. There's just a handful of us crazy enough to try all this right there in Como.
So I want to back up just a little bit. You went to Dartmouth. What did you study?
I studied environmental studies and anthropology, so really hard-hitting practical stuff my time up there.
And then from there to New Orleans, and you did some Katrina AmeriCorps stuff. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I made a brief stop in Montana to kind of goof off and fly fish. I worked at a guest ranch and just like clean cabins and fish for a few months, and then decided I need to kind of figure out what I was going to do. So that's when I moved to New Orleans and went to work for a small nonprofit rebuilding houses after Katrina.
Well, fly fishing in Montana
will
clear your head.
It sounds pretty great.
Yeah. Yep. It was a lot of fun. I did some other things too.
What part of Montana were you in?
I was in Paradise Valley, so just north of Gardner. Yeah, just south of Livingston.
South of Livingston.
And north of Gardner, which is the northern kind of gate to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Beautiful country. Beautiful country. So you made this decision and to come back home and to take over the family place and begin. So what was being grown on the farm prior to your arrival was what your father was growing?
Mm-hmm. And he retired. My dad is 82, almost 82, and he retired from row crop farming about the time I moved home.
Okay.
And he was still running and still runs the cotton gin in Como.
Okay,
So he's kind
all
of
right.
did both his whole life. Very hardworking, industrious guy. And around the time I moved home, he started renting out our row crop land to our cousins. So a family member was still farming it. And I kind of started to take over the pastures. I didn't take it all at once, but I would start renting the pastures from my dad. And then I slowly expanded that.
So you don't row crop at all yourself?
I do not row crop at all. I've taken in a small amount of row crop acreage that I've converted into year-round grazing. About 60 acres.
And how
of
many
row crop.
head do you manage?
It really depends because they're kind of meeting their maker,
They're
and then
in
we're
and
bringing
out.
them in. They're in and out. Yes, that's a good way to put it. But at any given time, we'll have from 60 to 150 head of fat cattle or cow calf and cattle that we're grazing for finish, and then we usually have a couple 200 to 300 pigs on the place at any given time.
Now, are you grass-fed, corn finished? What's your
I know.
What is your style?
There's a lot of confusion around these label claims if we get a minute to talk about it. But we are grass-fed and grass-finished. We're 100% grass, and that's, controversial in some circles, not in others. But we, to me, being grass-fed and grass-finished, it forces you to manage your livestock and your lands a certain way that I'm really interested in, because you're not just parking them and feeding them that corn.
So no
diet.
corn on your place.
No corn.
Okay.
Now we feed the hogs corn, so that's not totally true, but not to the cattle. And the other thing is that the meat industry is so consolidated, and the big four the big four packers own 85% of the market share, and I'm never going to be able to corn finish and feedlot beef better than those guys can, right? So you got to find your niche and find something that you're providing the consumers that they need that's a really high quality, and I believe that is grass-fed beef.
Was the name of the farm always Home Place?
Not commercially. It was Yarbrough Farms was the name of my dad's farming business, but we always called the place the Old Home Place, which is not unique to us. I mean, a lot of families call their old farm that, but it was always known as the Home Place. It's Home Place Road. So I just kind of took that and then added Pastures to the end because we're raising the animals, and that became our official business name.
Deep South Dining is a production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting Think Radio and is funded by generous contributions from listeners like you. Our show was produced by Marissa Vaughn. For all of our guests from 2024, for our hosts Malcolm White and Carol Palmer, stay tuned for Now You're Talking with Marshall Ramsey and Southern Remedy at 11. And join us next Monday for more Deep South Dining, heard only on MPB Think Radio.